Hello and welcome to On the Preds with me, your host, Alex Daugherty of A to Z Sports, and my co-host, Sean Smith of A to Z Sports here as well. We are here for episode 58 of On the Preds. It is December 12th, and the Preds are actually playing right now, but Sean and I decided we need to go ahead and record this podcast because we have so much to talk about. Sean, what is up?
Oh man, I tell you what, it was an eventful weekend of 8U hockey up in Cincinnati. The team came away with 2 out of 3 wins, and my son got his first. I would like to say trip to the penalty box, but it was his first 4 trips to the penalty box.
So we are about to spend 4.5 hours covering 8U hockey from the Cincinnati region. Yeah. Buckle your seatbelts. Here we go.
Man.
Number one. No, for real though, there's a lot to talk about because the past couple days in Nashville Predators world have been pretty wild and shocking and maybe a little bit sad in a couple ways. So we'll talk about everything. I want to lead off with maybe what I think is the most important thing. I mean, there's been a lot that's happened, but what I think is the most important thing just from a human perspective. Yeah. And that is that we learned Sunday morning that Michael McCarron has entered into the player assistance program, the NHL's player assistance program. That is part of a contractually or an agreement between the league and the CBA, where players who are dealing with mental health issues or substance abuse or other family issues can step away from the team and deal with those as they need to. And McCarron is doing that. We do not know any details, so we don't know what's going on. But he's entered that program, and so that's it's a good thing because whatever he's dealing with, that program is very good. So I hear, and it has led to the resurgence of careers and to saving lives, no doubt. So very good that he's doing that. And so I don't know. I guess there's really not much else to say about it, but I think that's important to lead off with. McCarron is getting the help he needs, and that's very important.
Well, I do want to say one thing, and it's that, and I know you had tweeted about this, and I think there are a lot of people that, especially if you're paying attention mostly to the Predators, like I know a lot of people are, you probably remember that the process with Connor Ingram was very open, where we knew why he was there. There were articles written about it after he'd come out of the program. And I just want to point out that that's not typically the norm. That was kind of on the player to come out and talk about that. I feel like because it was a mental health struggle, he felt like it was important to share that with the world, to try to destigmatize mental health in sports, and especially with guys in general. So, McCarron not saying what it is not some necessary thing, meaning that it's a horrible, bad thing. It's just he's chosen not to share what it is, and no one's going to share what it is unless it's him. So I don't even want to speculate, but when we go down to the locker room after games, there's a little tunnel that we kind of hallway we stand in while we wait. And oftentimes players that didn't play that night, that are in their, I'd say street clothes, but they're always wearing suits, will walk through us as they come out. And I just want to say that McCarron's always, the first guy to say hello to everybody, tell everybody to have a good night. Just seems like a really good guy. So I know that you do. I know you've already mentioned it, and I think we all just wish the best for him. So we can leave it at that and move on.
Functionally, what that does to the roster is important too, though. So McCarron does not count. Hold on, let's double check that. He is not part of the 23.
Right.
But his his cap hit still remains. His cap hit's pretty low, but so he does not count to the 23-man roster while he's in the program. He's away from the team. He's still paid. So that piece of information is important for what we might mention later regarding the cap hit,
right,
or the cap situation. And so I think that we just need to go ahead and jump into the same exact information, or almost the same exact time we learned about Michael McCarron. We learned about the waiver status of Eeli Tolvanen. The Predators waived Eeli Tolvanen. We learned of this at 1:00 on Sunday. The timing here is in question. We'll talk about that later, but I'll mention something after the break about what I found out today. But Eeli Tolvanen waived by the Predators Sunday, and then today we found out that he was claimed by Shaun. You want to tell us?
Claimed. He was taken by the sea.
By the sea. The sea
Yes,
claimed
taken by the sea. He was picked up by the Seattle Kraken, who were actually, interestingly enough, I believe, 23rd on the list,
Yep.
meaning 21 other teams passed on putting a
Yep.
claim in because the Predators would have been one of those 22 in that sweepstakes order, I guess you could say.
Right.
I'm curious because when I found out the news, I was driving. I couldn't really respond social media wise because it's not safe to text, tweet, and drive. It's not something you should do. So I didn't really, my hands weren't tied because I was driving, but they were wrapped up. I couldn't respond in anything other than cries of sadness and words of frustration in the car. So I'm curious, how did you take the news initially, Alex?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time. What was your question?
How did you take the news initially when you first saw that Tolvanen was waived on Sunday?
The Tolvanen was waived.
Yeah.
Well, I was in the middle of writing a quick article at A2ZSports.com about Michael McCarron,
Okay.
and I was literally writing the. I mean, I'm not even joking here. I was writing the sentence. It is very likely that Eeli Tolvanen will take Michael McCarron's spot in the lineup now that he's absent from the team. Tolvanen would make the most sense in this role. He's been healthy scratch 7 straight games. This makes the most sense. Welcome back to the team, Eeli Tolvanen. So you could say that I was the most surprised that I've probably ever been about a move when I saw it. I was like, what? This is very shocking.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of visceral, angry reactions out there, and I'll say that typically, whenever someone gets waived, even if it's a player that I think has value or a player that I think could be a good player, I've never really been shocked. I'll use the example, of course, of Connor Ingram. With Connor Ingram, we've all followed his story. I think if you're a fan of the team, you followed Ingram's story. And so it kind of seemed like going into the season before the Lankinen signing that Ingram would have been the backup to Saros. When we saw Lankinen get signed, it was kind of like, okay, so what's going on here? But as you watched the preseason games and as you saw their performances, I think it became abundantly clear very quickly that Kevin Lankinen was going to be the better backup. And I still stand by that today. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with me. But when they waived Ingram, it was, again, I felt like it was probably, if they couldn't find a trade partner, it was probably what was best for him to allow him to have the chance to play minutes in the NHL. And it did work out that way. And even other players, sometimes you can look and go, yeah, that wasn't going to work out. Maybe they put in a claim on a player, let him play a couple of games, and then decided this ain't it. We're going to let this guy go. But this was the first one for me that I think really threw me for a loop. I'm surprised, honestly, that he made it all the way to the 23rd team to have the chance to claim him. I would have thought that he would have gone sooner. A lot of those teams down there at the bottom of the NHL right now, I think, would benefit from having a player like him on the team. So surprised that they waived him, surprised he made it as far as he did, but not at all surprised that he got claimed.
So Tolvanen being claimed, I think, is not a surprise to many people. You never know exactly how these things are going to go. There are not a lot of waiver claims in the NHL. It doesn't happen that often. But I think it's interesting that Seattle took him. So Tolvanen's whole deal, his whole situation since being an NHLer is he has always been touted as a guy with offensive potential, but
Right.
specifically his shooting.
Right.
Not his playmaking, not his speed, not his passing, just shooting. Like, he's a good shooter. That's pretty much what he's good at. But he has had to and this is what's, I think, frustrating for people, is he had to kind of, but because his shot was not immediately apparent and immediately going to become a 30-goal scorer, even though he was pretty good. I mean, he wasn't like, I mean, he had 6 power play goals a couple years ago, and that led the team. His shot was not so good that you could just say, well, he's going to play every night. He's going to play in the top 6. And he's going to play right around this amount of minutes.
Right.
The problem is he had to he had to learn how to play in a system that gave him minutes, right?
Right.
And the system that he was in with John Hines, because most of that was with John Hines. He did not play much during Laviolette's time in Nashville. No. Like, he just did not play much at all. Most of his development has been under John Hines, and John Hines' system has forced him to try to play good defensively. And here's the kicker: he's kind of done that.
Yeah.
His even strength defense numbers are really pretty good for a guy that only gets about 10 or 11 minutes a night.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's frustrating is, like, first of all, this guy, you're not playing this guy in the role that he probably is going to succeed at. But secondly, the role you are having him play in, he's actually doing pretty good, and yet you're still not playing him. So it's a really weird, confusing development path that has ended with them losing a former first-round pick for absolutely nothing.
You got to think, I look back at the time he spent in Milwaukee, because I did have a chance to write about this when he moved back into the NHL after spending time with Carl Taylor. And that was the thing Carl Taylor talked about really heavily was, look, he's got an elite shot. He's always going to be a good shooter. What can we add to his game that allows him to round that out so he has other things he can contribute to his team? And this is, again, his shot. He was known. There's literally a song written about his shot in Finnish. I mean, it's not like he's kind of okay and he scored a few times.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. And this, I mean, I hear this, but like the problem is he can't do really any of the things that lead him to getting a good shot. He has to be in a perfect situation to get a shot. That's why he's good on the power play, because he can get in those positions a lot easier. Outside of that, he's really like, that's his struggle. But the problem is it's not like he's that, but he's also a bad defensive player. He's not. He's actually a pretty good defensive player. He was one of the better ones last year. And he was he was fine in that role this year. But, he's not going to be on the penalty kill. He's not good enough there. And you would assume he'd be on the power play, but he slowly got rolled off of that unit. Yeah. And he did play a little bit on the second unit, but that second unit wasn't very good. So yeah, it's really weird because, like, yeah, he's got a good shot, but like it's almost like he needs it needs to be teed up for him every time.
Yeah.
And if that's what you need, you're going to have to do other things really well.
Yeah.
So it's really frustrating, but again, I think that part of that, you can definitely blame the Predators themselves for not developing that, not giving him the right chance. And where is he going to go now? He's going to go to this is what I was going to point out. I was looking for this stat earlier. He's going to go to the 6th best offense in the NHL right now. The Seattle Kraken have the 6th best offense, 3.56 goals per game. And if you remember where the Predators were last time, then that is the same place they are at now, 29th. They have the 29th best offense in the NHL, or you might say the 4th worst, at 2.6 goals per game. A team that does not need to be giving up offensive talent, although based on their own actions, he's not really much of an offensive talent because they haven't developed him that way. So, well, I mean, anything to add to that?
I mean, I think we've said pretty much everything we can say at this point. Again, trying not to have, okay, this is the player. You've got to think that the people who got on the Nashville Predators train during the Stanley Cup run, this is the prospect they remember from the very next draft. I think that's probably why there's a lot of group ownership of Tolvanen in particular, within the fan base, is because that's who they remember after this run to the Cup Finals. is, oh, and now they picked up this guy that somehow fell to 30th. They've come away with a great first-round draft pick, and then they're writing freaking songs about a shot in Finland for the World Juniors, and everyone's jazzed up about him. He shows up. It's not really been the, scoring rain that we thought it would be. And so people still have a lot of feelings and attachment to the player. But
I think that's a good point. I mean, yeah, that there are a lot of people out there that are probably that he's the number one prospect that they followed because they followed the team in the cup, and he was right after that. I think the better comparison, like the real better comparison, is Kevin Fiala, because like Fiala came in as a 2014 first round pick, and it's almost the exact same story. Kevin Fiala had considerably more success with the Predators, at least.
Yeah.
Probably because he played in a more offensive friendly system, and Peter Laviolette was like, if you can put pucks on the net, I'm going to play you. But I mean, so now he's in Seattle, and the Predators lose him. And I do want to talk about something that I found out from the team today. I was able to talk to a member of the team about something today, and we also need to cover the other two things that happened, or a couple things that happened. But before we do that, I want to talk about Relax the Back.
Oh,
our favorite sponsor over there in Green Hills. If you don't know about them by now, here's what you need to know. First of all, if you want to live better, feel better, and sleep better every day, you've got to go check it out. Relax the Back in Green Hills. Tons of customized comfort options for the office, for relaxing at home, or for sleeping at night. That's a very important one, because if you're looking for sleep options, they've got it all. There's the Techno Gel. There's the Tempur-Pedic, our Tempur Ergo Smart base and wedge systems. And here's a good little picture of some of those. You can go visit their store and see these in living color right there in front of you. Those wedge systems and posture pillows, everything in their store is all about getting your spine in the correct natural position for relaxing or for sleeping. There are chairs in there that, I kid you not, if you sit in it for more than 10 minutes, 5 minutes probably, you're going to fall asleep even if you're not tired, because you're that comfortable. You've got to go check it out at Relax the Back in Green Hills, 2020 Glen Echo Road. You'll see it right as you're going down on Hillsborough Road. A sleep agent is on hand every day. Talk to Glenn. He owns the store, and he will tell you about the 4 pillars of wellness, and they are healthy sleep, healthy body, healthy work, and healthy mind. Okay, so I want to talk about what I found out about today. But before we do that, real quick, the other injuries, there were some injuries that happened. So we mentioned there were a lot of moves here. In the game against Ottawa on Saturday, Alex Carrier and Jeremy Lauzon got injured. Alex Carrier's looked a lot. Wait, now Alex Carrier is week to week. Lauzon is day to day, right?
Yeah, Lauzon looked like he got boarded, but I think he ended up kind of holding his hand, is what it looked like the issue was.
The Carrier hit was the one that was a lot worse.
Yeah.
And he left the game, and he's week to week. I think his is probably significantly worse. But the important thing is that with those two absences, and with now Ryan McDonough out 4 to 6 weeks, that was as of last week, so I guess 3 to 5 weeks left now.
Yeah.
They're now down 3 defensemen, and that means, they didn't have any of the defensemen to play, so they had to go call some people up. So Kevin Gravel and Roland McCown. I think it's pronounced McCown. I have heard. Go ahead.
I've heard McKeon. I've heard McCown.
I've heard McKeon, McEwen, and McCown. His hockey reference page says McCown.
Okay.
Or McCowan.
McCowan. That's interesting.
It says McCowan. Yeah. The hockey reference page says Roland McCowan.
Okay.
So I think that's probably it. Roland McCowan. But these guys got called up. They're playing tonight against St. Louis. I mean, they went directly from Milwaukee into the starting lineup because of the defensive situation. And the other thing is, so the Predators are actually in kind of a cap trouble right now because of a number of reasons, really. I mean, number one, they are now having to replace players that are injured but not on long-term IR, and also have some cap hit like Ryan McDonough. They technically have around $1 million in cap space right now, but that's only after trading away, or not trading, sorry, waiving Eeli Tolvanen. So I think that you can consider the Tolvanen waive a cap saving move, which is very sad considering his cap hit is only 1.4 million.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't normally see cap saving moves of that small amounts, especially with the Predators. They are almost never in this kind of situation. But I think it has to do more with injuries and those kind of situations than anything. Their roster is only at 22 right now because they just don't have the cap room to really do much more than that. So they're at 22. I imagine they'll be at 22 tonight and tomorrow against Edmonton. Maybe they'll make a move, but I wanted to get to this. I know I just spewed off a lot. Do you want to cover anything that I kind of said right there? I mean, the defensive moves. You posted the thing about the two defensive players. Anything about them stand out? Kevin Gravel, Roland McCarron.
I mean, the thing about both of the guys is they're part of the leadership team down, or I hate saying down in Milwaukee, but Milwaukee's north of Nashville, so they're part of
facing
the
south. If you're facing south, maybe it's down.
Whatever. I don't know. Here's the thing: in Milwaukee, they're part of. They wear letters on their jerseys. They're part of the leadership team there. There are guys who have won the Calder Cup at the AHL level with different teams. They're experienced guys. I really just assume that these moves are not anything where you think that they're going to come up and reasonably expect to grab a spot and hold on to it. Like maybe you would with someone like Gross, but more than likely they're going to be sturdy role fillers until the other guys are ready to come back into the lineup. You're not looking at flash. They paired them together on the third pairing. They're not trying to split things up and give them a new partner and mess around too much. They're trying to keep these guys limited, let them do their job, and let them get back to the AHL.
They both have NHL experience. Kevin Gravel played 70 games with the Kings, and Roland McCarron played with the Carolina Hurricanes. But yeah, they're just replacements. So, what I wanted to mention is, so I think it's very important that we ask questions of this team as needed, right? I mean, I think that's a very important thing. It's part of our job, and some questions are not as important to ask, right?
Right.
Some questions you can kind of figure out on your own and maybe you can guess, but it's not really that important. But I decided that today, this issue with Eeli Tolvanen, I think comes down to how, in order to figure out the decision-making behind why Eeli Tolvanen was waived, I think it is important to know the order in which things happened. If Eeli Tolvanen was waived before they found out that Michael McCarron was entering the player assistance program, then it's just it's really unfortunate timing. Obviously, best wishes out to Michael McCarron, but you can't really do much about that. You were already going to waive him. You didn't think it was in your future. You'd healthy scratched him 7 games in a row. He clearly wasn't a part of the plan. Waiving him is a bad idea still, but waiving him is worse if you find out about McCarron and you waive Tolvanen at the same time, because then it's what have you done? You've completely hamstrung your team. And so I reached out to the team to find out if they could provide that for us. And I'll just give you a little clip of what they said, basically, and I tweeted this out. They basically said there are a lot of things that go on in these decisions. There's things behind the scenes that people don't always know about, and we exhaust all possible scenarios when making roster decisions, as I would assume they do, and that they are not prepared to share timelines of when these things happen. Now, the thing about timelines, most of the time they're very obvious. I mean, it's they make one decision on one day, another decision on another day. You're pretty sure those happened concurrently. But this is different.
Yeah.
Especially because you're dealing with a player who checks himself into player assistance like that. They're not in control of that. He goes and does that.
Yeah.
Did it happen, immediately after? Did it happen at the same time? Did it happen, I think this is a mystery we probably will never solve, but I think is important. Do you think it's important? Am I crazy?
No, I think it's important. You really have to think about, again, you're talking about the timeline of Sunday. Let's look at the timeline of Saturday, because Saturday you have two very obvious injuries that they probably knew immediately were going to necessitate both of those defenders being out. If you look at the fact that the team was already only playing with 6, that they've called up Gross already to replace McDonough, and that Borowiecki is still on the injured reserve list. So they knew they had to call up 2 players. They knew that they could probably do that on the cheap, but at the same time, it was going to push them really close to the cap limit. And when you say, look at the way in which things were announced, they announced the McCarron news first, and then they announced the Tolvanen.
They didn't announce it. I think that's important. Like the Predators never said anything about it, and they haven't even said anything about Tolvanen. We are getting these information from other parties. Like the player assistance thing comes directly from the NHL. It says it's from the NHL PR. Michael McCarron of the Predators has done this. That is the only information we got. The Predators didn't say anything.
No, you're right.
So and we don't know what that means. I mean, he played on Saturday, right? He played Saturday during the day. Not knowing the nature of what this is, did it happen Saturday night? Did it happen Sunday morning? We don't have no idea. I mean, there's no way to know. So like it could have happened 5 minutes before they tweeted that out or before they announced it, right? Could have been right as, And the Tolvanen waiving thing, a team waives a team that morning. It's not made official until 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. We don't know about it until 2 p.m. Eastern. So when Chris Johnston and Elliot Friedman are saying that, it doesn't mean that it happened right then. It could have happened at 9 o'clock that morning. It could have happened the night before, and then it just goes into effect the next day because it's after the waiver time.
Yeah.
So again, like that's why I think this is an important thing. Like, how much did they really value Eeli Tolvanen? If they really thought that they could waive him and he would clear, as was reported today by Sean Shapiro, if they thought in their mind, we can waive him and he'll clear, maybe it did happen after because they needed to get these defensemen up and they needed to clear some cap. So we'll just see if we can sneak him through.
Right.
Which was a baffling thought because I don't think anyone thought that he wouldn't clear. So that's why this is a gray area. I have no idea what order. I mean, if I had to guess, they had waived him first and then they find out about McCarron, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you want to get really grassy knoll here, Alex? We could. I'll tell you. If you think back,
give me the grassy knoll. Give me the Umbrella Man and the Zapruder film and the little and the. Give it to me.
Listen. Go back to Twitter, man. Think about the. I don't think it was either. It may have been the team account posted something about the Eeli Tolvanen death stare as he came out for practice. You remember that? And everyone was like, blink twice if you need help. Somebody free this man. Somebody get him some help. He did look pretty pissed off, right?
When was that?
I don't know, man. I go back and look, right?
Oh, so are you getting to the potential of a trade request? Is that what you're getting to?
Well, I'm getting to the potential of the fact that, we do have him either the day before that or the day, 2 days before that looking kind of pissed off and not really
remember that.
Making a big effort to look happy. I mean, not that, players owe it to everyone to look happy all the time, but
he's a little hard to read. He's not a super expressive guy. I mean, like if you look at his Instagram, it's like all the same face. And he's like, it's like this face, but the caption is like, I'm thrilled to death to be, signing with the Predators today. It's like this face.
Yeah, you're
My
right.
best friend is getting married. I'm so happy for him. It's like every face is the same.
There's a little bit of that. I'll give you that, but I'm going back. I'm trying to find this. While
you're doing that, I mean, one possibility, one theory that emerged, I think is this could be realistic, or it could be a possibility. Maybe he requested a trade. Maybe he said, if you're not going to play me, send me somewhere else. Give me a chance. And then they tried to do that. And because they had played him so infrequently, no trade partners emerged. They were like, you're just going to have to waive him and we'll take our chances picking him up, which was a good job by those other GMs not to give Nashville something they didn't need or they didn't want to give up.
You're 100% right. I'm
That could
still
have happened.
going back. I'm still going back here. I think maybe it wasn't the actual Preds account, or maybe that. Nope. The Tolvey stare down, December 8th. They're coming out of the tunnel wearing it's a. I think it was before the.
Was it one of the team people, one of the team media people?
Yeah, it was the Nashville Predators team account.
Oh,
And
okay.
December 8th says the Tolvey stare down. He's coming out. He really doesn't ever smile. The other guys are kind of
Yeah.
smiling.
I
Comes
mean,
Carrier. I don't know.
because I think all of it plays to it has been a very confusing time to understand why they are not playing him. And questions to John Hines as clear as he is usually about why he's not playing guys or why Tomasino's getting sent down or why such and such is happening. I think he's going to give some sort of response. We need more out of players than just one skill set. We need guys to be able to do multiple things. And I think the fact that he wouldn't produce on the power play this year or something, and he can't play on the penalty kill. He's not a versatile player. Well, I mean, there are some guys that are not super versatile, but they're really good at one thing.
Yeah.
You've got some of them on your team right now.
Yeah.
Not every player has to be like a Calle Yarncroke.
No. Not everyone can be good at all of the little things.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. It's they have fallen in love with the Calle Yarncrokes and the Colton Sissons who can play both ways and do all the things because it gives them versatility in their lineup. Even though if they had, if they had 3 Connor McDavids, they'd find a way to healthy scratch one of them because he wasn't doing everything.
We don't need 3 guys that can do the same things.
Exactly.
We need 2
That's
guys
how they
that
do
can
it.
do it.
We don't exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I see the reasoning. I'm just kidding. I know. I was trying to play it off.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's
we have
a head
one
scratcher.
Connor McDavid, but we don't need a second one because we already have one that does that. We need a guy who can take those tough face-offs and play on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
How about you have a guy that puts the puck in the net so much that there's never any defensive face-offs?
There you go. If you did
Not
that,
that
you'd never
Tolvanen's
have to
put
worry
the puck
about
in
it.
that often, but like you have the 29th ranked offense in the league. You don't have the leeway to give up offense for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's even potential offense, I think. It's not just
Even
offense,
potential
but
offense.
potential offense at this point. It's you gotta it's again, I'll call it a head scratcher. It's definitely questionable, but
I already said, like, I think it's one of the most baffling moves they've made since I've been covering this team, and they've made some really crazy moves, trading for Cody McLeod, the trade for the trade for Jeremy Lauzon didn't make a lot of sense at the time. I guess we kind of understand why they did it now, but the signing of Kevin Lankinen,
again, most of the time, and I'm just talking about waivers. Most of the time, when someone's put on waivers, I get it. Even though I may think, this guy has upside, I understand where the thought process is coming from and where it's leading. This one is the one that has left me going. Even when it happened, I was like, "What? What? Surely someone out there could have traded something, for him." So
maybe there's an injury we don't know about. Maybe there's an off ice issue we don't know about. I mean, they've given us no information. They've not even really made an announcement that Tolvanen's not on the team anymore. I expected in the release today for them to say, like, we've also waived Eeli Tolvanen, but they didn't even do that. Nothing. It's like he just disappeared from the team's website. It's just like so weird.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I don't know.
So there you go. There's a lot of things that have happened. The roster's at 22. It can be at 23, but they don't seem to want to do that.
Well, we are recording in the middle of the game. You're looking at the 12. You're looking at the only 12 forwards they have on the roster right now. They're all out there doing hockey. They could add another one, and if they get some of the defenders back. If they get Lauzon and Carrier back, then they can send the other two guys down, and that frees up more space they could add if they wanted to.
You mentioned, I mean, you talked about Tommy Novak, right, today?
Yeah. I did. Tearing it up down in the A.
Give us the lowdown. I mean, I don't think the Predators know they have Tommy Novak, so tell them who he is. Tell them about who Tommy Novak is, who plays in their system.
It's a strange case. We'll say this, and I can't remember. I want to say that he was drafted in 2015. I may have that wrong because it's not right in front of my face, and that was much earlier today.
I'll look it up. Keep going.
But he was drafted. I believe he played. I want to say in college. I know he had an injury that kind of ended his season there 1 year. He ends up coming. He's played in Milwaukee for quite a while, and he came up after the abbreviated season where he had played with the Chicago Wolves because Milwaukee had opted out of that season. He played where the Wolves were combined with the Admirals into a very bizarre hybrid of what was a very, very good team with two very good coaches. And when he played there, he was kind of tearing it up there, did a great job. And then, he didn't start the season the next year or last year in Nashville. It was actually Glass that started the season there and was sent down after 1 or 2 games. The immediate call-up was Novak. Novak came in, and I was really surprised going back. He played 27 games. He only had 1 goal in those games. It was in his last game, and then he was added to the COVID-19 list. And
never came
back after that. And once he was down in Milwaukee, it's almost like they just forgot about him, and there were plenty of opportunities to call guys up. I know you saw Matt Luff come into the lineup. McCarron really kind of took over as fourth line center for the team after Novak went onto the list. And so I think if you look at what he's been able to do in the AHL, what he's been able to do is lead the team in scoring for the most part. And a lot of that's due to the fact that he's playing center with some very talented guys on his wing. He's leading the team in points as we speak, and it would make a lot of sense that you could have a guy that could come in and play. I mean, God forbid, play fourth line minutes, but somebody's got to play them. You might as well have somebody that can go out there and make some things happen. He's fairly defensively responsible, and he doesn't commit a lot of penalties. So I think it would be a great move. It wouldn't cost very much. And if you were going to also try someone like, God forbid, Philip Tomasino come play in the NHL again, this season.
I mean, Philip Tomasino is the one that needs to come up. I think if they want to have 13 forwards, it's got to be Philip Tomasino that comes up. By the way, yes, Tommy Novak, 2015, he was their 3rd round pick.
Yeah.
I forget why they didn't have a 1st round pick that year, but Yakov Trenin was their 2nd round pick. So that draft could have 3 players playing on it right now from that draft: Yakov Trenin, Thomas Novak, and Alex Carrier.
Right.
All drafted in 20.
What I was getting at though is, if you're looking at replacing someone at fourth line center and you wanted to also bring someone else up once there's more room, because there should be more room, you could realistically bring Tomasino as well, put Tomasino with Novak on the fourth line, and I think they would do very well. But
yeah,
then again, I've also thought that with more time on the fourth line or more time at even strength or whatever, that Eeli Tolvanen would do very well. And we just talked a lot about how that didn't end the way we thought it would, didn't we?
Definitely not. So we'll see what happens. I think the Predators are in a very strange position right now. I mean, the season could very much go downhill quickly if they do not have proper responses to these injuries and to these pretty poor defensive pretty poor showings in the last couple games where they lost to the Ottawa Senators 2-3 and lost to Tampa 5-2.
Yeah.
They looked
in front of their dads, Alex.
In front of their dads. Next article. Do the Predators hate their dads? That's the next article. So, having said all that, we will go ahead and wrap up today's show. That was a lot to cover. Thanks for listening. I have not even pulled up I did not prepare well. I was just so taken aback by this slew of Preds news that I did not even prepare the upcoming results or upcoming games. So they're playing right now against the St. Louis Blues. Tomorrow night, Tuesday, they play Edmonton. And then for Thursday, they play at Winnipeg. And then Saturday at Colorado. 4 games this week, including at St. Louis, Edmonton, at Winnipeg, at Colorado. I mean, if they win one of these games.
Yeah, dude, look, Edmonton at home the day after playing St. Louis in St. Louis, you've got a night of travel, and
That's
then you've
horrible.
got another game against a team that kills with speed. I mean, good night. Like,
yeah.
And look, I'm going to say all this. We'll assume that Lankinen gets the start, and Lankinen's been solid. But I'm going to say all this like it is set up for the Predators to lose. But watch them go out and win like 9-1 or something crazy and stupid like that.
That's right.
Right? Always, whenever I go making big predictions.
Thanks everyone for listening. You can check out all of our Preds coverage. There's a lot of it on there right now at A2ZSports.com. Go read it there. Follow me on Twitter at AlexDarty1. Follow Shaun at SCSNSH. Until next time, we will be watching the Preds just like you guys. And thanks for listening. Goodbye, everybody.